Also making headlines today as historically black colleges embark on homecoming season, a black-led Turning Point USA chapter is hosting a, quote, Educate to Liberate tour.
The nonprofit group founded by the late Charlie Kirk would promote conservative politics on college campuses. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor was at their latest event at Bowie State University.
Between homecoming celebrations, intense political conversations happening on Bowie State's campus today, the group Blexit receiving mixed reviews from students, but overall, many simply steering clear of the event entirely.
I'm here with my African brother.
Bringing nothing but themselves, a mic and a camera. Blexit setting up shop at Bowie State University. The Black-led organization, a branch of Turning Point USA, a conservative political group founded by the late Charlie Kirk. This is just the latest stop on their Educate to Liberate tour, being held at historically black colleges across the country.
We try to, go around and challenge values because we believe, and I believe personally, that a lot of the black community are actually more conservative than their voting patterns show.
While the discussions often revolve around complicated issues, organizers say the mission is simple. Through open dialogue, they hope to open young minds to adopting conservative values.
To want to be able to get out there and continue to, exercise our free speech, First Amendment right, and share these conversations and have these conversations that apparently, some people will kill you for.
But due to strong winds, homecoming, and the holiday, foot traffic was scarce on campus. Instead of joining in on the debate, many students keeping their distance. Some also questioning the event's timing.
Of course, homecoming is right around the corner, coming up tomorrow, Saturday. So I'm just surprised that they are here and chose to do it on this day out of every day.
They're definitely just looking for they're looking for content, someone to rage bait or something like that.
Meanwhile, one participant who says he's not tied to any political party, telling us he's staying neutral, both on the event and his own political opinions.
It was nothing that made me give him a side eye or anything. He just asked pretty general questions.
Although he agrees the group might have been better received on a different weekend.
Hopefully they just don't cause any ruckus. As we said, it's homecoming. Nobody's trying to bicker.
Blexit's stop here is its second to last on the 10 University tour and the only one in Maryland. They'll also be headed to Lincoln University later today.
What's up, everybody? It's Monday and it's time for Pop and Politics. I'm KJ. Let me introduce you to my co-hosts. Of course, we have Nicole Bennett.
Hey, y'all.
And Shelly E. All right, folks, we've got a full show tonight, and I mean full. I know I say that a lot, but tonight's show is full. So before we light this fire, do your part, tap that thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, and turn on your notifications. We're live here on YouTube and Rumble. If you're on the go, you can catch us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify under the name Pop and Politics. We love our chat. We shout out every super chat. So drop your thoughts, show your love, and join the conversation that the mainstream media wishes didn't exist. This is not just a podcast. This is a movement of God-fearing, truth-seeking, America-loving people that value freedom. Stand with us and subscribe so we can amplify this rallying call for freedom. All right, ladies, let's set it off. Of course, we are starting out tonight with that video you saw at the top of the show. That was Blexit. As they said, they pretty much explained it, a conservative organization. Basically, well, I don't know if you would call it's conservative, but the main purpose is to educate the mostly Black community on conservative values. So to get them and to somewhat teach them about there's more than the Democrat Party. Is that right, Shelley?
So yes, basically Blexit itself, it stands for Black Exit, Exit, or getting Black people to leave the Democratic Party. That's the acronym, if you will. But there are specific values that Blexit has, and that they I guess they act on, they teach on, namely free markets, economic independence, religious freedom, patriotism, faith, family, and freedom in general. So those are the basic values that they teach around.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Thank you so much. Yes. And they've been going on college campuses doing events for a long time. But I'm not sure if this was the first time they decided to do historically Black colleges, but they have gone on college campuses and all types of events. Do you ladies know if this was the first time they've gone to HBCUs?
No, they've gone to different campuses across the country at different times. Yeah, Blexit has a Blexit student movement component to one of its components, if you will. So I think this is the first time that I'm aware of that they have done sort of I'm calling it like a what do you call it? A blitz, if you will. Sort of a blitz of so many at one time, or a number of them in a certain amount of time. I think that's the first time that I'm aware of that.
Okay. Before we really get into this, I want to show this next clip. This is director Stephen Davis at Howard University, which is, of course, a historically Black university. And this video shows some of the feedback that he got from some of these students. Take a look here. This is clip 10.
And some students were not happy that Blexit showed up during their homecoming.
Unsettling. I feel unsettled. You're coming to one of the biggest events at Howard, and I feel like a lot of people that are here are pretty liberal. So, and just how upsetting and like emotional it gets for people is very strategic and like getting people riled up. And I don't know, just I don't think it was the best way for them to come now.
You know, it's a shame. It really is a shame that people, as she stated, get upset and emotional and riled up, for which she thinks is our strategy at Blexit to send these Black liberals into some type of emotional tizzy, all because there are those of us who look like them, but who do not think like them at their homecoming. I mean, talk about gatekeeping, y'all. I mean, this is indicative, though, of the current condition within the collectivist hive mind of the left, especially within the Black community. I mean, there has to be unanimous, in sync thought when it comes to the cogs of the machine, right? The robots must all beep, boop, beep in unison, right? And if you do that, if you NPC enough, then you're welcome with open arms. But if you have a differing opinion, you're public enemy number one. The collectivism of communism and socialism is rife within America, and especially the Black community.
All right. Again, that was Stephen Davis. Now, the first video we showed to open the show, they were at Bowie State University, which is right here in Maryland. The second video we showed, they went to Howard University, which is in DC, of course, and both are historically Black colleges. All right. So to talk about this and, what's going on and, how we can reach, more within the Black community, is joining us tonight, Dave Anderson, also known as the Business Bully. All right. Friend of the show. And he is who else could we have on? Because he has his new book out, The Real Black Agenda. David, welcome to the show tonight.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here. Let's chat it up.
All right. So I want to start right out with you. Not sure if you had a chance to see the videos we just showed, but it's Blexit going to historically Black colleges and universities. What did you think of that? Reaching out to these universities for conversation and dialogue.
I tip my hat to him for doing it. I think it's one of those things where most people don't have the gonads to go there, especially with a differing opinion. The thing that I find very interesting is how quickly they get marginalized because they have different viewpoints, and the things that take place on HBCU campuses. And I can say this simply because I'm, an HBCU dad. My daughter went to Howard and I paid that tuition out of my pocket. And the things that we'd have to go through, like calling up the bursar's office, you can't get anybody. If I didn't live a couple of hours away, I'd have never got anything done. The Tubman quad was flooded out. My daughter didn't have a door in her closet, like all of these things. But the tuition was, through the roof. And I remember my daughter's sophomore year, U.S. News and World Report had put Howard University in the top 100 schools. And they were the only HBCU to make it, and they were at 89th place. And I'm like, yeah, we're celebrating 89th place. And then, You had kids setting up tent cities because they couldn't live in their dorms for a myriad of reasons. And there wasn't a whole lot of smoke behind that, but somebody saying, hey, this may be what you've been missing, because after 60 years of Democrat policies, maybe there's time to do something else. At least find out what the other side has to offer, you know, challenge some beliefs that you've been indoctrinated with since you were a kid. So to me, it's insane that we are so quick to all of a sudden in institutions where people are there historically because they could not go to other places, are now getting rid of people who look like them because they don't think like them. I think it's asinine, but I wish I could say I was surprised.
Yeah, yeah. I want to get you in on this, Nicole. You are, you know, on the in the leadership of Black Conservative Federation, which your agenda is to reach the Black community with conservative values and solutions. What did you think of them going to the HBCU?
Well, a lot of us have gone and are still going to HBCUs to have conversation. Some of the pushback that they received, especially in the first, or probably I think both of the videos, but a little bit harder at Howard, was the timing of the event. You heard the young lady say, you know, homecoming is the biggest event, you know, on campus. No, graduation should be the biggest event on campus. The yearly drunkard should not be. And I say that as someone who attended Grambling. So, you know, here is the thing. HBCUs have a long way to go. They had a very prominent place early on in American history when we were moving toward college education and we couldn't get into white schools. So there's a historical component to that. But Dave is right when he says that there are structural differences between, let's say, the University of Maryland and Howard. Howard has a fantastic reputation as far as an HBCU, but let's just keep it 100. It's in Southeast DC. Most HBCUs are in the hood. Let's do that. Let's just keep it a buck. So talking to our people about our issues when we have a differing opinion is difficult because most of them want to be in the echo chamber. Most of them want to have the same things that they've heard their whole lives parroted to them. Very few are up to listening to counterpoint arguments. So I don't blame them for going during homecoming. It is what it is, but I applaud them for at least trying to have the conversation.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I want to ask you all, well, before we do, I want to acknowledge our super chatters here. Thank you all so much. All right. Let's see here. We have, all right. We have Simply Ashby with the $5 super chat. Says showing some love. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. All right. Kung Fu CJ with the $2 super chat says, I see we have started on fire already. All right. Yes, indeed. All right. Kung Fu CJ again says Howard was a Republican before LBJ. Oh, he said Howard was the university was Republican before LBJ. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. We have Brown Eyes with the $5 super chat says Dave and PMP ladies all together. One of my favorite people. This is awesome. Thank you, Brown Eyes.
Hey, Brown Eyes.
All right, absolutely. And folks, tonight, as we mentioned with Dave's The Real Black Agenda book, we are going to do a raffle for his book for the super chatters. So you know, we're gonna, if the more you super chat, the more your name gets put in this raffle, and we are going to draw and send you his book. All right. Power from Politics will do that. So definitely we appreciate each and every one of you, and thank you so much. So I want to ask just about, we were talking about, as you mentioned, Nicole, the HBCU. And again, Dave, you have the Real Black Agenda. And I know I haven't got you in on this, Shelley. I want to get you in on this. You know, what is, should there be a Black agenda? And if so, what is the Black agenda? How do we connect as conservatives with the Black community, with the urban community? Is there a certain way we need to do this? Or is it just about talking about regular issues? I want to get you on this first, Kelly.
Say that again. I'm sorry. You want me or Dave?
I was gonna say you, Shelly, and then I would get Dave in.
Oh, hi Dave. Good to see you again. Always. Look, I wanted to ask you this because of your book. KJ was alluding to it. My question is this. President Trump, this is the second time in his second administration he's given millions of dollars to HBCUs. Now, you talk about the Black agenda in your book. So should we, the taxpayers of America, be giving this money to HBCUs? And more importantly, what outcomes have we as taxpayers gotten for that from HBCUs?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think like anything else, no one bats an eye when we talk about TCUs. Are you familiar with TCUs? You're familiar with MSIs, right? For those of you who do not know what a TCU is, it's a tribal college and university, minority serving institutions. Those are MSIs. It's not an uncommon thing for the federal government to subsidize education across the board. Now, if we're going to be honest about this conversation, and I'm pretty sure Nicole will concur with everything I'm about to say, HBCUs by and large have been run into the ground, mismanaged, led astray, run amok, has so much corruption because they have very, very little oversight. They are state schools, but they run almost like an annex in comparison to other state schools when it comes to oversight and regulation. And so a lot of times scholarships go missing. A lot of times buildings don't get the upkeep and maintenance that they need to. And so I think the more educated and the more fulfilled the experience is for college students, the better off we all are as a society for those of us who are there to matriculate and make things happen, not just to twerk and have good barbecue on the quad. So yeah, I don't have an issue with that because we have spent taxpayer money to things that have absolutely nothing to do with Americans. Leaving millions of dollars in Afghanistan, dropping off enough money to eradicate homelessness throughout the United States 10 times over for the Ukraine. Like, no, I don't see anything wrong with that. My issue is, regardless of where the money goes, there needs to be oversight. I'm not saying Doge was perfect, but Doge was uncovering a whole lot of nonsense. I think that oversight is extremely important. I don't have an issue with money being given to HBCUs, like I don't have an issue for money from the federal government being given to any institution of higher learning.
Nicole, did you have a question for Dave?
So, Dave, you may not be aware, but here in Maryland, we had a really big court case about University of Maryland system sharing programs with our HBCUs in the state. So as it turns out, Governor Hogan allowed a very large portion of taxpayer money to go to HBCUs and kind of warned the University of Maryland system to not duplicate the programs that are happening at these smaller HBCUs around the state. This money, inclusive with the money that's coming from the Trump administration in 2026, we just got passed in 2025, this money should kind of right the ship for HBCUs. Do you think that's going to happen, or do you think it'll be more mismanagement?
It all depends on who's in there. It all depends on who's in there. It all depends on what protocols are being followed, what conditions come with the money. It's like anything else, man. When you have good business practices and you say, hey, okay, I'm giving you this money based on these particular parameters, then everything else falls into place. What tends to happen a lot, though, is we have all of these people who are well-intentioned, then another administration takes over, then you've got a bunch of bureaucracy and a whole lot of dead weight that affects the ability for that money to do the good that it is intended to do. So I hope that they get it right. I don't have much evidence to say that they will, because this isn't the first time something like this has happened. Right. I know people personally who have gotten full rides to schools that they didn't even know they had a full ride to, and the money was taken by the administration or someone in the administration. And even when my daughter was at Howard, there were people in the bursar's office pocketing bread, while the president of the university was, coming through campus with a limo service and walking around like he literally owned the place, like he was Billy D. Williams in a Colt 45 commercial. So and I'm not saying corruption is something extremely exclusive to HBCUs. I'm just saying that it's a lot more blatant and it goes a lot more unchecked there. But I'm hoping that this does make a substantive change.
So let me ask you, Dave, and I kind of started out asking this. I was talking to Shelley, but I probably need to ask you this. What is the Black agenda? What is the real Black agenda? And how does it differ from any other agenda for hardworking people, middle class people? Why single it out as the Black agenda?
Here we go, KJ. Why not? I mean, no one has an issue when the ADL talks about the things that they need from the government. Nobody has an issue when the Congressional Asian and Pacific American Caucus talks about what they need. We all know, and I defy anybody on this panel to tell me that we believe that the Congressional Black Caucus has Black people in mind for anything other than scapegoating. So why would we not have an agenda that addresses our needs if we have densely populated Black neighborhoods statistically that are food deserts? That is a need that needs to be addressed. If we have schools that still have to pay a myriad of taxes, and each of those children are worth about anywhere between $15,000 to $36,000 per annum in public schools, but the public schools look like hot trash truck juice, and those kids aren't getting good education. They're not getting books. They don't have computers on every desk. They are not providing anything other than how to kick a ball, run with a ball. Anything artistic or anything creative gets thrown out the window when underfunded. We've removed any type of things that are going to stimulate their mathematical computations like music and art have been shown to do. If those things are not happening, we have an issue, and those things are specific to densely populated Black neighborhoods that have gone unaddressed for 60 years, primarily by Democrats, because when you look at the most densely populated cities in America, they are usually run by Democrats, and many times now, especially after 1984, Black people. And so when you have a disparate need, for example, in 2005, I remember being in Texas and Katrina hit. The majority of people in New Orleans who were affected by Katrina happened to be in a densely populated Black neighborhood. It doesn't mean that other Americans did not have rain affect them. It means that these particular Americans have specific needs that have gone unaddressed. As a result of that, you had things like looting and so on and so forth. So when I talk about the real Black agenda, there are things that the Black community needs that the Black community does not get. Part and parcel because a lot of policies that have been put in place from LBJ all the way down to Joseph Robinette Biden of Delaware have put us in a situation where they're profiting off of the unbalanced suffrage of Black Americans.
So what I wanted to get to is, I understand you believe there's a Black agenda, but what is it? What are some of the top priorities within the Black agenda that you see? And I know we need to get the book to really dig in, but if you could, on a high level, what are the top priorities of the Black agenda?
Well, the main top priority is doing for self, because you see what happens when we don't. And what I mean by that is, okay, right now you got a bunch of people who are on Twitter, X, whatever it's called this week, and talking about what's happening with food stamps and all of those types of things. If we were in a position to be self-reliant, and there are plenty of us who are, but there's plenty of us who are not, then there would be a different thing. We cannot vote our way out of poverty. We have to own our way out. So that means business ownership, land acquisition, controlling our supply chains, financial literacy, and circulation. The Black dollar leaves our community in 6 hours. Jewish dollar circulates 20 days, Asian dollar almost 30. We need education that doesn't indoctrinate, but builds. We don't need diversity training. We need training on how to manage money, how to deal with wealth, strengthening the Black family. Because when you look at what's been happening with, the entire abortion thing, the advent creation of baby mamas, we have issues. Broken families breed broken communities. And so we need to focus on that. Media ownership and narrative control. When you see Black people in mainstream media, they're usually ghetto as hell. They're either drug dealers or baby mamas or killers or thieves or trifling ratchets. We need to make sure that we have accountability. No more voting 90% to any political party without anything to show for it. We live in a representative government, and so the government needs to be representing us. And 90% for 60 years with nothing is not working. We need to rebuild the community infrastructure, fund mentorships, protect the elders, buy the block. We don't need representation. We need reconstruction. So it's not about begging for inclusion. It's about building independence. That in a nutshell is what the real Black agenda is about.
Dave, can I ask you a quick question about apprenticeships?
It's your
So,
show.
when we talk about kids who are not necessarily college bound, it may be financial, it may be just that they can't take another class, they've maxed out at high school. How do you see apprenticeships fitting into this Black economic growth? I think it's a great idea. I just want to get your take on it.
Here's the thing. I tell people all the time, just because I got a bunch of degrees doesn't mean that I'm better. I come from a grandfather who put 7 kids through college with a 6th grade education himself, working with his hands. And that became that came about because of his ability to be an apprentice and work his way up. Everybody's selling that same American dream, getting a debt, get a degree, and hope it pays off. But all the studies have shown, especially when it comes to our Black boys, we don't like to sit still for 8 hours doing absolutely nothing. And so they label us behavior problems. They don't give us anything to do. So my whole thing is, when you have an applied skill, they can't take that away from you. Degrees diminish every single day. I think apprenticeships need to happen. I think the one thing that I can't stand is that Job Corps was pretty much just gutted. We need to start really putting back those things that allow us to get certifications, get apprenticeships, get those maximum skills up, so we don't have to beg the government to raise the minimum wage. It won't matter one way or another. I think the new classroom is the workplace. And so having apprenticeships is extremely important, because then you're doing something, you're finding out what it looks like in real time from people who have been doing it, what the money looks like. And it breaks that lie that has been over our heads for the past 60 years, that if you get a degree, all your problems are solved. But the biggest carrier of student loan debts in this country happens to be Black people, specifically Black women.
So let me just say this. Oh, I was going to say, so most of what you mentioned are conservative ideas and conservative principles. Yeah.
Certainly.
I mean, like you mentioned, family, business ownership, education, but not indoctrination. Many of these are all solutions and ideologies that we talk about here on Poppin' Politics day in and day out, conservative things. So how do we get this into the Black community? Because I mean, I don't see, like you saw, Blexit went to these HBCUs. Nicole is doing it. You're talking about. Are we getting through to these to the community? And if so, if not, how do we get through?
It's a loaded question, because what's happened is effort is being made, but you don't get points for effort. You get points for winning the game. We keep trying to play by the rules. The one thing that I will tell you is I went to the worst high school in America, and I had to fight damn near every day. The one thing that people don't understand is when you get in a street fight, it don't matter how good you box. You got to start fighting like they're fighting, and what's happening.
I actually said that on here before. I literally said something like that.
What's happening now? They're so lost. And when I say they, I mean the Democrats are so lost to this point. Now, the new strategy is what I call the Crockett cuss word strategy. Now, all of a sudden, every prominent Democrat from Timu Obama to Kamala Harris is dropping F-bombs like they're going out of style, instead of talking about what's happening. We got to get off of what they've been doing, which is, anybody who says anything conservative, they're automatically on the MAGA train, and that's the worst thing, and they're sellouts, and they're house Negroes, and this, that. Like, first of all, I ain't nobody's sellout. I ain't nobody's coon. I ain't nobody's yowza boss step and fetch it ass Negro. What I am is a person that has made something of his life. And at the end of the day, and I tell people this all the time, like, a lot of Black conservative Republicans are people whose lunch money I'd like to take. I don't believe them. They don't seem to have a shared experience. They have either never been able to walk the street. And I don't mean that from a badge of honor perspective. I mean that from a relatability perspective. To me, it's as bad and as out of place as when Dr. Fauci was walking through the hood talking about you need to get this jab, or you had Mayor Bill de Blasio saying, hey, why don't you get the jab so you can have this delicious burger and fries? It's like, we got real problems. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't come from that, like Tretch from Naughty by Nature said, if you ain't never been to the ghetto, don't ever come to the ghetto because you wouldn't understand the ghetto. So stay the out the ghetto. You need to find the people who can relate to people in a real way and speak to what it is, because what is now considered conservative 20 years ago was what Bill Clinton was running on. People forget Bill Clinton ran on Make America Great Again because he stole it from Reagan. We don't talk about what's necessary. We talk about what sounds good, and we have a gap in between the ones who have made it and the ones who are still trying to figure out which bill's going in the hat. And what I mean by that is you take all the bills, you throw them in the hat, you grab one, and that's the one that gets paid, and everybody else, you're going to try to make erasers on it, or if it get cut off, that's okay. We got candles. We've got to get ourselves into the trenches in a real way. Not, oh my God, you know what? Abortion is bad. Instead of saying, hey, abortion is bad, why not talk about the fact that there's a conspiracy to kill black people that has been working and 40 million black people have fallen prey to it? Or the fact that Planned Parenthood was started by an honorary Klanswoman, or the fact that even now Planned Parenthood takes medical waste, which is now your aborted child, and extracts their stem cells, extracts their melanin, and sells them off to the highest bidder. Plus the government is subsidizing that, but won't put a Whole Foods in your neighborhood. When you have real honest conversations, you'll realize that everybody's favorite radio station, especially black people who are downtrodden and in the hood and have been voting Democrat because they've been on that Kool-Aid for the longest time, they have a favorite radio station. It's called WIIFM. What's in it for me? We don't do that. We start talking, puts, hey, you know, Donald Trump, and he's going to do this, and he's going to cut all that out and talk about what's in it for them from a real place, and you will make strides. We don't want nobody in our bedroom. We don't want none of that.
It sounds like you're saying you meet people where they are.
Absolutely.
Where they are. Yes. I know, Shelly, you had something I saw you wanted to come in for a moment.
I can't remember exactly, Dave, but I think this is what you were talking earlier, or mentioned earlier that, you know, we can't vote our way out of whatever these issues are. But in the communities you mentioned, largely predominantly black or heavily majority minority communities, that are the ones who their education systems are not functioning well for the children. They don't have the resources they need. But yet the government, so how do they get the, I guess, the funding, the economic resources that they need to start building these economic foundations? I'm just saying, where do they start? That gap you're talking about, I get it. Right. So where they're going to say, well, how do I do that? I have to work. I have to pay this bill, or I'm living on whatever modest income they have. How can they have real solutions? Where can they start?
Okay, here's the thing. The black community on average gives between $33 and $38 million a week to the black church. In the hood, other than the liquor stores and the dispensaries, the black church is pretty pristine. If we took that money out of the black church, which hasn't really done anything to uplift black people by and large, with very few exceptions, we wouldn't have a money problem. Period, point blank. I know that's controversial for some, but it's the God's honest truth. You know, we've got to start looking at where we're putting our money and how that's working for us. We also need to start looking at restructuring our financial institutions and supporting our financial institutions. We have 17 active and on the books, real historically black owned banks. And then there's another 4 or 5 that are kind of, bino, black in name only. We got to start looking at our institutions. Also, the other part of that is families would get together and say, okay, Chuck, we are going to focus on your food truck for the next 6 months. We're going to put this money up and do that. That is more important. Also, sending your kid to school when your kid doesn't know what he or she wants to do is a recipe for disaster and a horrible debt to income ratio. Why not say, hey, let's take the money we set aside for school and put it towards your project. This is the best time in American history for anybody, specifically black people, to thrive. We got YouTube, we've got podcasting, we've got creative spaces, we've got the gig economy. There's so many things that we can do while we're building our dream if we came together and did it the right way. Yeah, I think that that's a possibility. The other part of that is, regardless of voting is where everybody starts and stops. Voting is the icing on the cake. The real cake is putting your money behind a candidate. Damn a Beyonce ticket. Contribute to a block. Half of y'all are in fraternities and sororities. You got this particular auxiliary here. You're Jack and Jilling, you're Freemasons, whatever it is. You go and you say, this is the person we're going to get behind because this person has our issues in mind. And if this person doesn't do what we need him to do, then we go behind their candidate. It's not that hard, but we act like it's impossible because nobody's having that part of the conversation. It comes down to vote, 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 vote. I just got off my Instagram and I saw Wallow telling people to vote for a district attorney who's literally turned Philadelphia into a revolving door for criminals. Like, that's what the liberals are doing. Conservatives got to start talking about how we take the money that we already have and redistribute it to things that are going to build our communities as opposed to tear our communities down.
All right. We have some super chatters here. I want to get them in. Thank you all so much. All right. We got AT says just showing support. Thank you so much, you guys. Paul Carrick says love Dave's take and love this show with $10 super chat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Loretta Gilmore, which just became a member of our member club, our Freedom Seekers Club. Thank you so much. And guys, that's a great way to support the channel as well, to join our Freedom Seekers Club. And folks, everyone who super chats, who joins the membership club, we're going to put everyone in a raffle and pick a name to win a free book from Dave, his newest book out right now, The Real Black Agenda. And Dave, please share with the audience where they can find your book.
Well, you can get the book right now at therealblackagenda.com. And everybody who gets the book tonight, I'm going to toss in a free audio book as well, which I read myself, no AI, just blood, sweat, and tears in my studio, y'all.
All right. All right. Excellent. Excellent. Well, Kung Fu CJ says, Dave, can whites contribute to the HBCUs?
Absolutely not. We don't want your white money. No, of course. You can contribute to absolutely anything, man. Listen, let me talk to white people for a minute. Hi, white people. Dave Anderson here. Listen, as your Negro delegation, I'd like to let you know personally, we take all the money. But, and I love that you're donating $2 here to Pop and Politics, but makeup is not free. These ladies need, you want to come up off the $2. HBCUs need more than that, but we're going to start right here. Giving locally to Pop and Politics is what we need to do. Get them super chats up. That's all I'm saying.
All right. All right. Thank you so much. Yes, indeed. Oh, Red Cup podcast. Yeah. Says, hey, ladies, got my homie Dave up here, and I love this. Oh, yes. Right. Thank you.
Mika.
Yes, thank you so much, Mika. We got to get you back on here, too. Yeah, so I love it. I love everything you're saying. You and I have gotten kind of bumped heads on this thing in the past, a little bit. But honestly, I love everything you're saying because many of the things that you are prescribing for our community are conservative. Mm-hmm. And I'm more on the values, I'm aligning with people with shared values.
Certainly.
So, my pastor preaches, Pastor PM Smith, he preached one time, he said, it used to be a time, he's an older guy, and he always talks about how, back in his day, we talked about community based on proximity. So many of us live and worked all around each other, and that was the community. But as we've gotten older, and particularly with Marxists influencing within the Democrat Party, influencing within the Black community, infiltrating the indoctrination in our education system, K through 12, also in college, it's really done a number on our community. And so it's very difficult for me now to say I align with, or I see myself within a community with the Black community. I gotta say, because many of the values that my family, my friends, and everyone shares, we don't share, we don't align. So I'm more so, wanting to connect with, build with, worship with people who have my shared values. And I pray that our community, and this is why we're putting this podcast out. This is why we do what we do. It's going to start, changing the value, changing the mindset. And I think the first step does come with your book.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it's extremely important to understand that there is a difference between what Black people value and what society, who does not look like us, who actually owns the media, tells Black people they value, because that is a very distinct possibility. And you also have to understand there's been a super mind job done by the mainstream media. And I'm sick and tired of people saying that it's, the rappers. And I'm like, the record label owners, the radio station owners, all of those people ain't us. But all of those people make money off of putting out debauchery. And then we embrace it because they say it's for the culture. The term for the culture ain't even owned by us. We've got to understand that it goes deeper than what we see. There are more of us who have good family values, who were raised right, who don't get the microphone, because again, it's much easier to digest an OnlyFans model who all of a sudden saw the light because she saw one episode of TD Jakes' empowering moment and decided to change her ways because I guess the OnlyFans money dried up and God is the new hustle, versus those of us who have been trying to live right and make things happen. So I want to make sure that we're very careful to understand that our values are still our values. There's just a very loud, very well-funded minority that cosplays as if those are our values.
All right. And speaking of these people that are trying to direct our community, trying to, push our community one way, I want to get back to this HBCU Brexit going out to these HBCUs. And at Howard University, where there was a white liberal woman doing a counter protest. Take a look. This is clip 11.
Here at Howard University for their homecoming, and Brexit, the Black conservative group under Turning Point USA, is here on campus talking to students. But what's also really interesting is that there is a counter movement happening right next to them.
Helicopters in Chicago grabbing Black families out of their homes, putting troops in the
Brexit, Black people for white supremacist fascism, and also heard them call us the black face of white supremacy, like Larry Elder was called, as they hovered right next to us for the duration of our stay. Now, they have every right to protest against us, every right to hold their belief system. I have no problem with that. But what's interesting about this is their tactics of ad hominem attacks, which is typically the white liberal tactic against Black conservatives who dare think for ourselves. So Black conservatives representing Brexit go to HBCUs to have productive and uplifting conversations with the Black community. And the ones who want to shut us down, who want to belittle us, who want to discredit us, just like the white Democrats historically, are the soft bigotry of low expectation having white liberals Malcolm X warned us against, who don't want to see unity within the Black community. I mean, you really can't make this stuff up.
All right. Dave, what's your reaction to that?
Again, Malcolm X said way before I was thought of, the worst thing that we need to watch out for is the white liberal. The white liberal acts like they're your friend, but they ain't. And it's so bothersome because we are the only, no one, if they did this, and when I say this, I'm taking my time because I need you to understand. I am the first youth president of the National Conference of Christians and Jews, which is now called the National Conference. So when I say what I'm about to say, I need you to understand there's absolutely no way someone who has studied the Torah the way that I have is being anti-Semitic by saying this. However, if they were to tell Jewish people that they all have to think this way and anything that is not this way is somehow fascist, the Anti-Defamation League would be on them like stink on dog poop. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. it's okay for everybody to come along and tell black people how black people should think, be, feel, and act, except for black people, because when black people do it and they get out of the box that those people who profit from our pain, our ignorance, and our stupidity have put us in, then all of a sudden we problematic. It's fascist. It's the face of white supremacy. First of all, I ain't met a white person supreme over me yet. Secondly, you want to talk about a face for white supremacy? Joe Biden wasn't a good enough face for you. Strom Thurmond wasn't a good enough face for you. Bill Clinton wasn't a good enough face for you. I could do this all day. Oh, that's right. But because they're Democrats, their racism's okay. Because we forget about that. You know, we know Joe. Oh, that's just good old Uncle Joe who called us roaches. It's fine. It's okay. And it's just good old, you know, Goldwater girl who said Margaret Sanger was her hero. Hillary Clinton said we have to bring them to heel, talking about my generation. You know, so white liberals on a black college campus telling black people that other black people who are there to get them to think outside of the box is racist and fascist. Apparently they don't have mirrors on that side of the aisle.
All right, Dave. Well, we have to wish we had more time, but we want to definitely have you to come back again. Please share where people can get your book and any events you have coming up, or how can people support you?
Absolutely. Right now, I'm on tour. I'm actually in South Florida tomorrow, promoting the Real Black Agenda. I have been on tour probably for like the past 5 months now. Super excited to announce that the Real Black Agenda is back to #1 on Amazon, which is absolutely amazing. Aside from all of that, you can follow me on all social media platforms at The Business Bully. But please, 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 please get the book right now at www.therealblackagenda.com. And for every purchase tonight, I'm definitely going to toss in a free copy of the Audible audiobook. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you, ladies, for having me. And yeah, let's keep moving, people. I'm excited.
All right, definitely.
Bye,
Thank
Dave.
you so much, Dave, the Business Bully. It's the Real Black Agenda. So you can get that on his website, and we will link all of this on our YouTube page. All
Hey,
right,
Dave.
ladies. Yes, Nicole.
Before you move on, let me make a correction. My phone has been going crazy. Howard University is in Shaw. Before, you know, you can stop calling me now, which is in Northwest DC.
Oh, okay.
I stand corrected. I mean, the people are like, girl, what's wrong with you? What is wrong with you? You're
Okay.
fine. You're fine.
Okay.
You'll
Well,
be
that's a
okay.
good correction.
You'll
So,
be
yep,
okay.
we always try to be factual here.
Yes.
So thank you. All right. All right, folks. We got so much to get to tonight. So let's get into politics. We are now, just to let you guys know what's on deck. We're going to talk about this government shutdown. We are going to talk about President Trump and the talking about the Christian persecution in Nigeria. We are also going to talk about infighting on the right. So Tucker Carlson's interview, Charlie Kirk's wife, Erika Kirk's interview. We're going to get to that hopefully tonight. And we're also going to talk about a trans in Gold's Gym. So cosplaying as a woman. We're going to get to all of this tonight, hopefully. So folks, please stay in with us. We got a lot to talk about. Before I do, want to just acknowledge our super chatters here. Thank you all so much. We appreciate you. We want to start off November with a big bang. So this is Kung Fu CJ says,
Yay.
LBJ's famous quote, I have them ninjas voting Democrat for 200 years. Yes, Kung Fu CJ. He also says, amen, Dave. Yes, indeed. All right. Terrell Rose says, please comment on Ben Shapiro's takedown of Tucker. Wasn't glorious, at least my opinion. So I did watch the whole show. Yeah, we're going to try to get to that if we can. Loretta Gilmore with a $10 super chat says, Black doctors used to hire high school teens to teach HAHAM entry at minimum immune level and advise in advancements based on their willingness to learn and mentality. All right. What do you guys know? Are you familiar with that?
I think she's saying, I don't know, high school tenants to teach them at an entry minimum level. I think that's what she's trying to say.
Okay. Yes. All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate each and every super chat, you all. It goes a long way in helping us produce conservative content. Also, please, as you come in, hit that like button. That helps to get this video out into a wider audience. So please, if you love what we're talking about on here, subscribe. We're talking about community, whether you're black, white, female, male, long as you believe in America, you believe you're God-fearing, you want the truth, you like these solutions, these topics we're talking about, join us. Hit that like button and subscribe. All right, so we got to get into the latest on the government shutdown. President Trump returned to 60 Minutes this weekend, his first appearance on the show since he settled a lawsuit this summer with CBS News over the news magazine's interview with Kamala Harris. Trump spoke with O'Donnell Friday at Mar-a-Lago on a variety of topics, ranging from the shutdown to China to immigration for 90 minutes. The interview was edited down to 30 minutes, a 30-minute segment that aired Sunday on CBS. They've also released the extended version online. There was a little difference, though, in the interviews, of course, whenever you combine it down to 30 minutes. But I want you all to let us know what you think. Was this something that they did in the editing to make President Trump? Did this change what he actually said? Take a look here. This is clip 3.
And all we're saying, give us an extension. We'll work it out. They've lost their way. They become crazed lunatics. And all they have to do, Nora, is
This is what they aired.
Let's vote.
So Hakeem,
Senate Democrats say they will vote to reopen the government if Republicans agree to extend subsidies for over 20 million Americans who use Obamacare for their health insurance.
All we're saying, give us an extension. We'll work it out. They've lost their way. They become crazed lunatics. And all they have to do, Nora, is say, let's vote. And you can open, the economy could open up during our interview.
Is there something you
Maybe
can do,
it did.
though? Is there something you
All I can
do to
do
bring this
is
to
give
an
the
end?
facts. Here's what I can't do. I can't give them $1.5 trillion so that they can give welfare to people that came into our country illegally, so that prisoners and that people from mental institutions and people that are drug dealers get vast amounts of money for health care.
All right. So, Shelley, did you think that was, a poor edit of that?
I think it was short-sighted. I'll say that. And I'll say that because they did put the whole unedited version online. I think it was short-sighted. I think it was too short. Again, they put the whole edited version, so you can't knock them for that, because his unedited version, it did give more clarity, more explanation as to why, what he would not do, if you will, why the shutdown is occurring. So it gave you a little bit more in-depth information or some more points that you could take away with. Just looking at the edited part, you could kind of walk away with like leaving, like, wait a minute, there's something more there, or it should be there. But again, I can't say that it was all nefarious, because they did put the edited, and they put it up pretty quickly too. You didn't have to clamor for it. There was no lawsuit, so they did put it up very quickly. So in that way, you can compare the two on your own, if you will.
All right. Nicole, we're talking about this government shutdown, the latest, and he did this CBS interview. What did you think about the editing?
Yeah, I think Trump should stay off of 60 Minutes. They don't mean him any good. They're never going to give him enough time, enough space to make his full point. Instead of allowing him to answer the question fully, they spliced in some Chuck Schumer, who wasn't even the person who was in the interview. He wasn't even the topic of the interview. It would have been different if they would have cut to a bar graph of how we got so over the top with these Obamacare subsidies. Because when you say Obamacare, people think you mean poor people. We're not talking about those Obamacare subsidies. We're talking about the COVID era subsidies, when everybody was laid off and everybody got free insurance. They would like very much for people to keep their free insurance. That can't continue to happen. It cannot. It cannot. But they would not give him the space to make that argument. Instead, they cropped in some Chuck doing what he does best, tap dancing for his life, because AOC's breathing on his neck. But short of that, CBS doesn't want that smoke with Trump anymore. It's bad enough they're building a ballroom on the White House for him. They're not going to risk it, not releasing the full unedited version.
Yep. Well, the shutdown is entering its 6th week and is set to become the longest ever this week. The previous record of 35 days was set in 2019 when Trump demanded Congress give him money for a U.S.-Mexico border wall. All right, so a lot of people are feeling it now with this shutdown. Take a look at Nancy Pelosi. Well, before we get into that, many people are feeling it with this shutdown. I want to talk about why we're having this. We don't have to tell you, because some people say we're biased because we're conservatives. But in this next clip, John Fetterman, a Democrat, literally says this is the Democrats' fault. Take a look. This is clip 4.
How do you see it? Who do you blame for this?
Well, I mean, for me, fundamentally, I'm deeply distressing to know that 42 million Americans are going to lose their SNAP benefits. And now that's one of the big reasons why I refuse to shutting our government down. And again, I feel like the Democrats really need to own the shutdown. I mean, we're shutting it down. I know why they claim, because they want to address the tax credits, and I fully support that. I voted for all of their RCRs, every single time, and I refuse to put 42 million Americans in the kinds of food insecurity. Now, this is all is solved by just reopen our government, and the people are now paid. Now, if we are the party that are fighting for working people. Now, as far as I'm aware, every single union that's involved in this is now demanding to us to reopen that. That's the side that I'm in through this. And now the 4 airlines are now saying we really have to stop this right now. And why do we really want to make flying less safe by forcing this times of situation and making things that much stressed? So it's not something I support of, and I don't want to be involved. And now we can find a way forward. We need to find a way forward. And I do believe we can achieve these kinds of tax credits. And this is something I support, but it's the wrong tactic. It was wrong when the Republicans did it. It's wrong now that we seem to be driving it.
Wow. So he didn't hold anything back, Shelley. He's putting it right out there. This is the Democrats doing this.
Yep. And interestingly enough, the Democrats want him out of Philadelphia or Pennsylvania now. They are angry with him. They don't want him. But he's the only Democrat, I think, in a long time that has turned Pennsylvania blue, from a national perspective or a federal level. Look, John Fetterman, I said it last week. I said it before. Ever since his stroke, God bless him. His brain has been sort of, recycled or configured back into the right position, I guess, right? What is it? That's the truth. Frankly, personally, I'm going to say it again. Ain't nobody starving in the United States of America, okay? I personally am not upset at people losing or not having their SNAP benefits. I just want the government to be smaller all around, okay? I'm not saying I'm going to be laughing or smiling if people are starving, which they're not, okay? This weekend, I saw all kinds of, what do you call them, Nicole? Handouts and giveaways,
food banks. Yes,
food
absolutely.
Banks. I saw them all this weekend, and people were lined up for them for whatever reason. I don't know if people needed it or not, but I just want the government to be smaller. And I think it's appalling. It is appalling. It should be shameful on the country that we have as many people on SNAP benefits being waiting to be fed by the government. I think this is more about the dependency argument than it is about monthly food stamp benefits.
Yeah,
agreed.
Well, Nicole, the Trump administration has just been ordered by federal judges to partially fund the SNAP program during this shutdown, using emergency funds to provide some benefits. But I think that Trump is going to use some other funding to do it. But what do you think about all this?
Listen, one thing that we can rest assured with Donald Trump is he's going to find a way. He's going to figure it out. He does not want Americans who need their SNAP benefits to be without their SNAP benefits. But what's going to happen is Once the shutdown is over, we're going to have to sit down at the table and bring those levels back down to pre-COVID numbers, maybe Trump 1.0 numbers. Those are even better numbers if we want to do that, because people keep forgetting when COVID happened, there was no limit. You could make $100,000 a year and they give you free insurance and food stamps and everything else. And there has not been any catalyst to reduce that down. So they tried, a couple of states tried by doing mandatory recertification for Medicaid. But, that's really hit or miss. I mean, sometimes you're the one who gets audited. Sometimes you're not the one who gets audited. So we still have people who make well above the poverty level. And I'm not talking about 5 or 10%. I'm talking several hundreds of percentages above the poverty level who still have government-sponsored health insurance, government-sponsored food. That's wrong, period.
Exactly.
Let's not even take into account all the people who are here on visas and all this other stuff, the temporary protected status, who get food stamps, who get all kind of assistance. All of that has to be brought to the table. At some point, we need legislators who are going to sit at the table and say, American taxpayers can no longer shoulder this burden. Here's what we are willing to do. We'll take care of our own old, our own infirmed, our own small children, and people who have more children than they have money. We're going to fund 2 of them. You do more than 2, it's on you.
Yeah.
A lot of states have already enacted that. So
I agree, Nicole. And as you mentioned, SNAP benefits exploded under Biden. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot more to this than hungry people. As Shelley has said, ain't nobody starving in the United States, in America. Okay. So,
but then you look at all the people who are hustling food stamps, right? Mm-hmm. They just arrested a woman in Louisiana that set up a whole bakery business with her food stamps. She didn't spend it on food for her and her family. She went out and bought supplies to start a bakery. Now, listen, I don't knock her hustle because I love a good entrepreneurial spirit. However, I don't get any dividends on my money that paid for her flour and her shortening and her pots and pans and all of that thing. There are lots of people who sell food stamps. You guys know that. You can walk into Giant, get 2 for 1. It is what it is.
And a lot of people who are illegal. Take a look at this. This is clip 8.
Day one of USDA, February 13th, is we sent letters to every governor in America being very clear that no illegal aliens can use SNAP. 0, 0, 0. We asked every state for the first time in history, and this was in February, to send us their data and let us, with Doge and a war room, actually start going through this data to better understand how this explosion of SNAP benefits happened under Joe Biden. We increased almost 40% on this program in just a couple of years under the Biden administration. Of course, we know they were trying to buy the election, but that's a conversation for another time. And since we have asked for that data, 29 states have complied. Of course, almost all the red states, a couple of couple blue states too. But in that data, and I haven't talked about this yet publicly, in that data we've studied about $100 billion in spend. We have found thousands and thousands of illegal use of the EBT card. We have been moving people off of SNAP. We've got almost 700,000 people, I think, we've moved off just since the president took office. We've arrested about 118 people. So this has been ongoing. But Rachel, to your point, what this conversation has allowed is a national spotlight on a broken and corrupt program. We found one guy in 6 different states getting a benefit. We found about 5,000 people that are dead who are still getting benefits. It is time to drastically reform this program so that we can make sure that those who are truly needy, truly vulnerable, are getting what they need, and the rest of the corruption goes away and we can serve the American taxpayer.
Wow. This is an issue. This is a major issue, folks. Shelley, what are your thoughts on that?
It is. I mean, like you said, of course it exploded under Biden. But again, get mad with me if you want. But the truth is the truth. It has continuously increased since its inception under both parties, okay? And the problem, I mean, not Nicole, I agree with what you said, don't get me wrong, but the problem is that every time we say we're going to talk about these national programs, these big spending programs, welfare programs, it never gets done. I don't care who is in office, it never gets done. And that, again, that means my money keeps getting thrown at these programs, and I don't get a return on investment for it. Okay. So yeah, I'm pretty angry about that. When I say I'm not upset about the SNAP program being reduced or whatever. I'm not, because again, I know people are not starving. Now, again, I've always said, because I know you all are going to bring, well, you know, you just heartless, Shelly. No, there's a place for a small percentage of Americans who absolutely need it. I don't have any problem with that. The problem I have is throwing good money after bad, and these problems, these big holes, programs are never reformed, redone. They're not. They just keep growing and growing, and then there's always kicking it down the damn curb. And Americans like us, you know, we're the ones who are paying the bill. I'm tired of it. Been tired of it.
Yeah, Nicole, I mean, you mentioned it earlier. These social programs have become a Democrat power tool, not a hand up. When the welfare programs were originally created, or their original intent was to be temporary, but Democrats, for the most part, have expanded them into permanent dependency. And so what we have going on here is between 1965 and today, the U.S. has spent $25 trillion on anti-poverty programs, yet the poverty rate has barely moved. They have created a permanent underclass of people who are dependent on these programs. And why? Because welfare isn't about results. It's about votes and control, and keeping these people reliant on government means keeping them loyal to the party. What are your thoughts on this?
It's a generational curse, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, they give you just enough to keep you wanting more the next month. And it's really hard to escape it. Then you figure not only the trillions of dollars that we've spent on the people who have claims, look at all the people that we employ to keep those people poor. Look at when we talk about a social services industrial complex, next time you have, you know, nothing to do with your life better than that, go down to your local social services office and see how many people work there and what these people do. And I'm not by any stretch of the imagination saying we should go in and fire them all. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying from a taxpayer point of view, let's not look at it from how much we can spend. Let's look at it from the perspective of how much we can save. And again, there's a reason why legislators don't want to do anything with this. And Shelley, you're right. Me and you talk about this all the time, and them kicking the can. They don't want to solve any problems. They just want to push it to the next cycle because they want to stay elected. And for some legislators, their number one job in Congress is getting reelected and raising money for their party. Those are two very important things for party politics. Make no mistake. But at some point, someone has got to be the person to stand in the gap. There's got to be a voice that says, hey, we can't continue at this pace. We simply cannot. I think we're probably 2 years behind where we should have been with bringing those numbers back down from COVID. I mean, COVID was just absolute lawlessness. People did whatever they wanted to do. You know, states ran however they wanted to run. And it really cost the American taxpayer a bunch of money. Unfortunately, post-COVID, we're still paying that same exact bunch of money. When we talk about that clean CR, and you hear Republicans say that over and over again, this CR is Biden's COVID spending. I don't even want the clean CR. I want the Republicans to actually cut some stuff. Exactly. The more they hold out, the more I would cut. I would cut them so close to the bone they'd bleed to death. You hear me? Exactly. Every day that they hold our entire nation hostage, I would take another $1 trillion off of one of their pet projects.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, Nicole, to your point, I know I'm not getting to this topic, but I do want to say this to your point. every time there is a quote unquote emergency in our country, whatever that may be, that's always a reason for some people or much of the country to say, okay, yeah, let's do this. And do you know, whatever that is, it never reduces. It never stops after the emergency is over. There's always some justification for keeping this going. It can be whatever the emergency situation is. And more Americans should be sick of it. Again, this should be a stain on us as a country.
Yeah. And it's not just the SNAP program. It's many of these social programs are being used as a scam, as a grift to funnel money. And here, Elon Musk is on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he lays it out. This is clip 7.
That's the nature of the scam. It's a bank shot. So then the rebuttal from the Dems is like, oh, well, the vast majority of the people who are marked as live in the Social Security Administration weren't receiving Social Security Administration payments. That is true. What they forgot to mention is they're getting fraudulent payments from every other government program. And that's why the Dems were so opposed to turning off, to declaring someone dead who was dead, because it would stop the entire all the other fraud from happening.
And so, but all this, is it trackable? Like all this other fraud? If
totally
they wanted
trackable.
to, they could chase it all down.
Yeah, it's not even hard.
And yet they're opposing chasing it all down.
They're opposing chasing it all down because it turns off the money magnet for the illegals.
Wow.
Because it's very logical to like I'm saying the most common sense things possible. If someone's got a birthday in Social Security that is an impossible birthday, meaning they are older than the oldest living American or were born in the future, then you should call them and say, excuse me, we seem to have your birthday wrong because it says that you're 200 years old. That's all you need to do. And
then you would remove them from the Social Security database and make that number no longer available for all those other government payments.
Exactly.
Wow. And how much money are we talking?
It's hundreds of billions of dollars.
And this is all traceable. Like you could hunt all this down.
Like you don't need to be Sherlock Holmes here, is what I'm saying.
Well,
we don't need to call Sherlock Holmes for this one.
Is this part of
the... We just need to call the person and say, excuse me, we seem to have the... we must have your birthday wrong because it says you're 200 years old or were born in the future. So could you tell us what your birthday is? That's all you need to do. It's that simple.
But all these other government payments that are available that are connected to this Social Security number, it seems like if you just chased that all down, you would find the widespread fraud. You would find where it's going.
Yes, but the root of the problem is the Social Security Administration database, because the Social Security number in the United States is used as a de facto national ID number. You know, that's why, like, the bank always asks for your social. So, like, any financial institution will ask for your Social Security number.
It sounds so insane that this isn't chased down. I mean,
Wow. He said turns off money magnet for illegals. It turns it off. This is why they've been keeping these Social Security numbers that are no good. Nicole, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, those Social Security numbers are good for hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? So, if you had and it happens unfortunately a lot, someone in your family that passed away that was getting Social Security benefits, was getting SNAP, that maybe had a Section 8, they just never report them deceased. So you have people who do that. Then you also have people who come into this nation and buy a Social Security number. And they spend good money on them. Don't get me wrong. They buy a Social Security number, and that Social Security number allows them to buy or to get into government programs. So when people say, illegals don't have access to taxpayer funded health care or the Section 8 or all of that, none of that is true. I said this before the election cycle, the presidential election cycle. Brown is the new black. They don't need Black Americans anymore. They don't need our vote. They've replaced you with people whose life and limb depend on the Democrats' ability to keep them here. Just imagine what that would be like if by some weird stroke of imagination that the Democrats were able to convince the American public to grant amnesty to the 11 million or so illegal people living in our nation that happen to be brown. Just imagine, that's 11 million people whose votes they've earned for generations. So this is what the stakes are. The stakes are very, very high. So, they're planning to win. And it doesn't matter if little children go hungry. It doesn't matter if, handicapped people and veterans and military don't get paid. Planes, almost crashing in the sky. None of that matters. They're fighting for their political lives and they're fighting for power. And they'll stop at nothing to get it.
Now, Shelley, I understood what he was saying about how they're scamming these social programs. And how, to get these illegals to get all this money. And then in turn, they believe the illegals will stay and vote Democrat. But how are then they enriching themselves through these social programs? That's where I got kind of lost on.
Okay,
is it a nonprofit scam? Or?
So again, the money is all fungible. The Social Security number is allow you to have access to other programs. You might qualify for other things. So all this money is coming in from wherever, needing the Social Security number. And then the people themselves, the illegals or the people who are not supposed to get this money, they are being enriched. In turn, what are they going to do? I mean, theoretically, in turn, they're going to vote for the politicians that'll keep allowing this, in theory.
Okay.
So it's the system that pays for itself. The system has been broken for a long time, and no one wants to fix it, because to fix it means a whole lot of corruption would stop. A whole lot of people wouldn't get XYZ because they don't deserve it. They don't qualify for it. It's not for them anyway. It really doesn't. The system or the people in charge, they don't really want to fix it. The solutions are simple. They've been simple for years. We've known what the solutions are. Easy. They don't want to do it. This keeps the bureaucracy feeding itself. The beast.
And that's my question. What do leftists in power get out of a large bureaucracy? Are they somehow able to push money towards themselves? Why are they creating and encouraging a system where people are dependent on government handouts?
They stay in power. They have access to the money. They have access to the money, if you will, or they have access to the purse that gives out the money, and then it's like a reciprocal benefit, if you will. So yeah, and the only thing I was gonna say, it's not just leftists. Again, this has been going on. This is not just the last 4 years, of course, SNAP in particular, but this problem has been happening since I've been born. Okay, I mean, before I started voting, we hear about Social Security. This is not new.
I'm not just talking about Social Security, though. I understand Social Security. I'm talking about social programs, the whole gambit of it.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it just votes, or is it some way that
no,
people,
it's more than just votes especially, but it's a way to clean their money. It's a money laundering kind of situation. So let's say, for example, you come from a district that has people, maybe 20% of the population that thrives on government benefits. And of that 20% of that population, maybe only 2% are actually eligible. The other 18% are scamming the system in some way, shape, or form. I'm not saying they're cheating everything, but maybe, they make a little bit more money than they told SNAP, or maybe, their Section 8 package numbers were different and they get paid more money now and they've never reported it. All of those things. So, some enterprising person comes along and starts a non-governmental agency and says, well, we're going to help them fill in the paperwork so they won't make these mistakes anymore. See what I'm saying? Now, most people in Washington, D.C., you know how people say there's 6 separation points between most people? In D.C., there are probably 2 or 3. Right? Somebody's married to somebody who knows you, who knows your cousin, some kind of way. I'm talking about politically. So this web, and Shelley's right, USAID didn't only hurt liberals and Democrats. There was a couple of red people who were yelping when they shut USAID programs down because almost everybody is connected to an NGO of some sort of way that they were funneling money in and out of their communities, in and out of their campaign, feeding the people that need to be fed. So this is not new. It's like Shelley said, a story as old as time. The Federalist Papers says it, if men were angels, we wouldn't need government.
Okay.
Men ain't angels. We definitely need government. But getting rid of the slush fund, and that's what most people called USAID, was the slush fund. Getting rid of that wasn't just a stab at Democrats. It was a stab at everybody who was gaming the system. Every single body.
Yeah. And this is what I wanted to get to, because I understand we all know that, right now we're talking about the Democrats as far as the SNAP benefits and illegals and the medical insurance and things like that, doing all this, gaming the system for illegals and people. But I don't see or hear it talked about enough. It's got to be more than just votes. This is a lot of money that they are encouraging people to get on and to stay on. So, and you broke it down, Nicole. I wanted to understand, how are they enriching themselves? And so it's just pretty much, as you mentioned,
it's
the
power.
idea of these bureaucrats creating more bureaucracy. They're getting paid, and then it creates more money to pay these people.
It's power. It creates more avenues, more access to streams of money, if you will. And it's power. The money is not just the tangible money. The money translates into them having power. They get power. They're able, Nicole used the right money laundering. They're able to clean up this money, and it puts them in front of the people saying, oh, I'm the one that's doing XYZ for you. So that's power. That is capital, if you will. That's capital, not just the tangible green dollars, but they're able to go from agency to agency, bureaucracy to bureaucracy. Like you said, KJ, it grows, and then you always happen to, the people, you always need the bureaucracy. There's a creative,
it keeps them in
exactly.
Yeah. It gets even more interesting from there, KJ. Like every year, someone from congressional ethics gives a general report of the people who have been elected to Congress, right? And they'll tell you there are people whose credit is so poor that they can't even open a bank account. There are people with felony convictions. There are people who can't have a checking account because they've written so many bad checks. There are people who are, looking at jail time. So there are lots of people who start off with all of this deficit, and inside of one term, 2 years, if you're House of Representatives, enrich themselves to millionaires. And people say, oh, it's insider trading, it's stock trading, and this and that. Some of these people don't have the 25 grand to even invest in stock. What they do is they have an NGO. Their wife or their mother starts a program. That program gets funded well above what it's supposed to do. There is no oversight. It's just money in the pocket. So the more you do that, the more money you raise. Now, I'm not saying Paul Pelosi is a terrible man. I don't know that man. I'm just saying his wife is a lot. But Paul Pelosi doesn't strike me as a Wall Street tycoon. From the sunny home in San Francisco, that he's this tycoon that's making every single stock guess right, that took them from middle class to super rich during the heights of her congressional career. But I will tell you that if we took a look under who was behind a lot of these programs and where that was funded, who got paid, who participated, there would be a lot of people who are uneasy. Lots and lots of people. There was a woman in Africa who said that she was very happy that USAID was dismantled because the money never got to the people. By the time the administration and all of that got their money, there was very little left over resource-wise to actually help the people. So that's how people enrich themselves. Politics, I keep telling you, is not a nice person's game.
Right.
It is not.
This is what I want people to understand. So when we talk about this stuff, when we talk about cutting off the faucet, shrinking government, stopping all of these social programs. We're not being heartless. We are understanding that it's a grift. It has become a grift. This is Poverty Inc. The money, or at least most of it, is not getting to people who need it, obviously, because the numbers show poverty has not changed. Okay. And so this is why we need to shrink government. We need to close out of many of these programs and cut off the faucet. And guess what? More people are getting wind of that. More people are starting to realize that. And it is driving the Democrats crazy, particularly what President Trump is doing. And you guys, when I saw this clip of Nancy Pelosi, she is really losing it. Trump has caused this woman to lose her mind. Take a look at this. This is clip 12.
He's just a vile creature. The worst thing on the face of the earth. But anyway.
You think he's the worst thing on the face of the earth?
I do. Yeah, I do.
Why is that?
Because he's the president of the United States and he does not honor the Constitution of the United States. In fact, he's turned the Supreme Court into a rogue court. He's abolished the House of Representatives. He's chilled.
That woman doesn't give a damn about the Constitution. She's realizing the faucet is being turned off. That is real disgust that she's showing, but she's not telling us why she's actually upset. Oh my God. When I saw that, I cracked up. Shirley, what are your thoughts?
First of all, what does she mean? He turned the Supreme Court into a rogue court. That he had people he appointed, like every president has that opportunity if the opportunity arises. That's number one. And the House of Representatives is abolished? Really? What? I mean, this is all just fodder. It's time for her to retire, officially retire, go and rest with Paul or whatever it is, whatever his name is. But these people, again, the faucet, all of the outlets they have, whether it's insider trading, NGOs, whatever, they are upset because Elon came through and he started uncovering. I think I still say this. I've said this before. I was upset when Elon left, for whatever time. I wish he was still there, but he started pulling back the layers a little bit. And more people, more Americans need to, get up to date and realize how the scam works. One of the biggest scams in our country, in my never to be humble opinion, is big government.
Yeah. Yeah. Nicole, what did you think when you saw that Nancy Pelosi clip?
One, Nancy made some promises about electing a female president. And Nancy had two bites at the apple and couldn't get either one of them across the finish line. And guess who she blames for that? Trump. Donald Jaquavius Trump. She's got a bee in her bonnet because that was going to be her legacy. That was going to be her legacy is introducing the world to Madam President. And he absolutely peed on her leg and told her it was rain. So, she's retiring. If rumors are to be believed, this is going to be her last term in Congress. And she's retiring without have gotten anywhere near her goal. In fact, the last woman she ran thoroughly embarrassed herself and embarrassed every other Democrat woman. I don't think they'll probably put up another woman for maybe another two or three cycles, unless Kamala wants another bite at the apple, and we'll take that smoke. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Folks, as you come in, hit that like button. It helps to get this video out in front of a wider audience, and subscribe. What are you waiting for? We have some super chatters here. Want to acknowledge you all. Paul Carrick with the $10 super chat says, "My pop and politics lipstick fund." Wow.
Yes. Let me tell you.
That's a good name. Our lipstick fund. That would be good.
First of all, you know how much I love a good lip gloss.
Yeah. Or our lippies. Yeah.
Yeah, our lippies.
Says, if any veteran or active duty needs help with Christmas for their children or grandchildren, they're taking care of. Go online to Soldiers Angels. Okay, they're taking it. Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you for that information, Jessica. All right. TLJ 1220 says, I put into the system 45 years and can't get no help.
You hear that a lot too. People who've been paying, Social Security taxes, been paying state taxes, and when it's, a downturn in your personal situation, I'm sorry, you don't qualify. So there's a lot of that that's been happening around here, especially with a lot of the contractors who have been let go because their contractors aren't being renewed with the federal government. So.
All right. He's Kung Fu CJ. My social security number was used to get SSI, and my statement shows. Yeah, so much fraud. It's so much fraud. Definitely. I hope you're able to let someone know, and they get down to what's going on. Yeah.
That's hard to fix. Oof.
Jessica with a $5 super chat says there's no need for the SNAP form to ask if you're disabled, and if you're a disabled veteran with a child, if that's going to be an automatic disqualifier. All right, Jessica, always keeping us in the know. Thank you. Says capable, lazy, and all POS that gets SNAP infuriate me. Yeah,
Me too.
Yeah, same here, Jessica. You are right. And this is what we're talking about. It's so much fraud, so much corruption, and they continue to try to give out this money to people who don't need it. They have they don't want to get down to what is going on to the fraud, and people who need it don't get it. So we're going to keep sounding the alarm on this, folks, and we hope you do the same. Speaking of people in need, we got to touch on what's going on in Nigeria. And President Trump is on it. So he is threatening to take military action against Nigeria if its government fails to stop what he calls the mass slaughter of Christians by radical Islamist terrorists. Take a look here. This is clip 5.
I don't know whether I will be the next, but for me, I've already told my family, my members, if they kidnap me, nobody should contribute one kobo. My grace will speak that will lead to Christian liberation. That day is coming. I'm just waiting for them. Even I will tell them, please kill me quickly, because nobody will do kobo. And if they point home, they will tell them our daddy covenant last will that we should never pay kobo. Please kill him, because my blood will be useful while
If you turn on primetime news, you're probably going to hear about what's going on with Ukraine.
On Ukraine.
Ukrainian city of Dnipro.
Ukraine has come under heavy bombardment from Russia.
Or what's going on with Gaza.
But in Gaza.
For Gaza. But you're probably going to hear nothing about the fact that one country has executed more persecutions towards Christians than any other countries around the world combined. And that's Nigeria. Just this year, 7,087 Christians have been killed, beheaded in many instances this year, just for going to church.
Wow. So, folks, now, we have been talking about this. We've mentioned it here on Poppin' Politics. We talked about this on Christian Conservative. And I believe Just the Guys have talked about this, the All-American Talk Show. All of the shows here on Metro Conservative Media Network have mentioned and talked about, raised awareness about this. But it has not been talked about in mainstream media. And not nearly as much talk about it on other platforms. But President Trump has recently addressed it. So as I mentioned earlier, he is threatening to take military action against Nigeria. Nigeria has rejected President Trump's threat of military intervention to protect the country's Christian population. As Christians continue to be massacred at the hands of Islamist militias in the northern region of the most populous African country, Trump has sounded the alarm and said he may even use military force. He was quoted to say, if the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria. and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns ablazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities. Now, Nigerian government has pushed back and said they don't know what they're talking about. There's no persecution of Christians taking place. Nicole, what are your thoughts on all of this? Do you think President Trump is just making threats, or do you think there's really some bite behind his bark?
No. I think that there's a lot of truth in what he's saying. This is the shot across their bow. This is their wake up call. That this is your get your shit together call from Donald Trump. I'm sure it was followed up by a phone call from Marco Rubio. But the northern part of Nigeria is Muslim, right? They used to kind of be a homogenous society. There's a little bit of everybody living next to everybody. And as we know, with radical Islamists, that doesn't work. So it's not new, the slaying of Christians in Nigeria. It's just picked up velocity, the killing of Christians in Nigeria. So there's like a middle land that goes across the country. It kind of is in the northern part, but it's kind of in the middle. In that place, not only have they killed the Christians, but they just assume their houses and land like these people never existed. So it's getting to a point where the southern part of the country, where large numbers of Christian lives, are getting very nervous. And you're seeing more and more Christian pastors say, take my life, but leave my people. And that's untenable. People got really angry with Donald Trump when he talked about the white Christian Afrikaners and bringing them to the United States. He's going to have to do something. This is not something that he can abide. This is not something the world can abide. 2 reasons. Nigeria is mineral rich. This is the reason why China is in Nigeria. China is in Nigeria. Maybe a couple of years ago, the radical Islamists kidnapped 2 Chinese people and bartered to get them returned. They sent a ransom. China paid the ransom, but then found the guys and killed the guys. This is a lawless country. They don't live the way that we live. The government flips from Christian to Muslim, back to Christian, back to Muslim. So the instability is already there, but the onslaught of killing Christians is not something that Donald Trump is willing to put up with, whether it's in South Africa or in Nigeria. He's just not going to stand by and watch it happen.
Wow. Yeah. Shelly, what are your thoughts on this? Nigeria is home to some 220 million people, and it's almost evenly divided between Muslims in the north and Christians who are concentrated in the south and central regions. However, over the last couple of years, we've seen Islam has spread throughout the world, and Nigeria is just another place where it's happening. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. When I saw that video, of course, it breaks your heart. A few things that I noted. So I went to Open Doors. Open Doors is one ministry that has been around for years, along with the Voice of the Martyrs. They really focus on, again, persecuted Christians around the world. Okay. According to Open Doors, they do this watch list. I think it's every year or every other year, but their top 10 of 50 of the 50 on the watch list, many of them are in Africa and eastward, including Pakistan and North Korea, right? What do these all have in common, except for North Korea? All these countries are largely run by Islamists, okay? That's number one. Number two, they have no rights, if you will. If you're not a Muslim, you have no rights. The Christians have no rights. And even other smaller minority groups have no rights. There's no first A, certainly. There's no 2A, that's another one. And there's no, I guess I would call it separation of the religion and the church and the state, so to speak. They're all intertwined. So a lot of them are Islamic run theocratically, if you will. So it's all hell. It's all hell and haywire. Christians have been persecuted in these countries. There are no rights. You can't have Bibles. You can't go to church, definitely, without being slaughtered, beheaded. So do we have a place? Do we have a moral obligation? I think we do. And see, this is the question I wrote down, and it's just a thought question. I was challenging myself. President Trump ran on no more wars, America first. So I'm wondering now, is our side going to say, no, President Trump, no, that's not us. We don't have any concerns with that. Or are we going, that's not America first, that's Nigeria first, or whatever other country? Or do you think we have a moral obligation to intervene? I think we do. I also think right now, where is the UN? Because this is the kind of thing that the UN is supposed to be for.
Yes, you're right, but they're not doing a doggone thing. All they're doing is sitting around having nice lunches in their pretty buildings. The UN has been absolutely useless for more than a generation.
Absolutely.
For more than a generation. It's a waste of time, a waste of money, a waste of effort. What it's going to take, though, Shelley, I think, and I'm hoping that the administration can get them to stand down through diplomatic means. So it won't have to be any kind of military intervention. Trump said that he is planning to scale back refugee entries to 7,500 next year, with white Afrikaners, the Christians who are being persecuted in South Africa being one of them. I'm wondering if he's going to increase that number to include the Nigerians that are being persecuted, or will it be, no new wars? He wants to be a peacetime president, and maybe it'll be more clandestine, kind of military exercises, I think that's what they call them, to kind of bring them to heel, because we can't continue at this point. I mean, that I know you guys seen that video of the pastor standing in that mass grave with bodies all around them. When I say it breaks your heart into two pieces, these people aren't being killed because they were robbers, beggars. They're being killed simply because they love Christ. And as a Christian person, I think that really hits all of us in the feels. It really does.
Yeah, we have some super chatters here. Let's see here. We have Kung Fu CJ says, Nicole, you are on point. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Let's see here. We have Kung Fu CJ says, that's right, Shelley. Where is the UN? And where are the voices on the right? So we had multiple comments here who have been saying that this was the first time they've heard about this. And, again, on the right, we are supposed to, be the area where more Christians are generally, you will find more Christians, Christian conservatives, and faith-based people. But we are not hearing a lot of the proliferation of radical Islam, not nearly as much as I would expect. To the contrary, many voices on the right are yelling about Israel, and the Jews. Okay. And so let's get into it, folks. Tonight, we've got to talk about something that may be uncomfortable for some, but it's necessary. I believe there's a storm brewing on the right. And what used to be healthy debate has turned into chaos, conspiracies, and right out open division. Okay. We've got the Tucker Carlson interview with Nick Fuentes. He sat down with a softball interview with Nick Fuentes, a man known for anti-Semitism, racism, openly unchristian views. He is not on, I would not claim him on any part of the right. I don't claim him to be conservative, nothing. And he's just nasty. And you had Tucker Carlson interview him. Not only did he just interview him, but he was easy. He was a softball, no pushback, nothing. Then we've of course got Candace Owens. She has been spiraling deeper into conspiratorial nonsense, implying all sorts of dark plots around the tragic death of Charlie Kirk. And then there's Erika Kirk. Because of all this nastiness that we've seen fueled on the right, people are coming out and saying very hateful things about her recently. And it's not just on the left, it's on the right. So I want to talk about this. What is going on? What is going on with this infighting? And should we call out these things? Or as some have said, like Matt Walsh and others, we got enough to deal with on the right with the left, and we should not be pushing back or addressing these things with people that are on the right with us. instead of addressing this type of stuff, we need to put all of our, heat towards the left. Nicole, I want to start off with you on this. Do you think it's fair to push back against Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and people like them? Or do you think we need to use this energy to push back to just the left?
I think it's fair. However, I will say this is the problem when you have a big tent party. I say this all the time. We'll take anybody. Come on, all your lunatics, your crackpots, your looky-loos and woo-hoos, we'll take you.
Nick Fuentes, we're taking Nick Fuentes.
But not everybody can be up front. Some people.
You believe Nick Fuentes is someone, because if he's not in the front, where is he?
In the back with the latrine talking his shit, standing next to Candace, right? So I'm going to say this and say this clearly. There is no litmus test for being a Republican. All you do is go on the website and click the R box. Now you're a Republican, right? The difference is...
So there's no litmus test for any party, really, right?
Well, no, but what I'm saying is we should not start one because we have a history of doing that. We have a history of doing that even down at the local level, a history of saying this person's not conservative enough because they don't agree where I agree on abortion rights. They're not conservative enough because their skin is brown. If we're going to talk about it, let's call it what it is. If they used to be a Democrat and then converted to Republican, they're not really Republican, or what we call the new ones.
So let me just ask you, so you equate that with someone like Nick Fuentes and his banter.
What
so
I say about
someone who may not be pro-life or who may be pro-choice would be the same as shunning someone like Nick Fuentes.
It's not the same. What I'm saying is we don't have a litmus test. We can't control who picks the party and who doesn't pick the party. The problem that I had with Tucker was the softball interview, basically tongue kissing this dude. You know what I mean? Co-signing on all of his foolishness. However, I'm not a Tucker Carlson fan. Let's just call it a buck. I was glad when he was off of Fox. He was not my favorite person. Matt Walsh is right. We have to keep our eyes on the prize. We got to keep our foot on the pedal. However, I do think there's time and space to call them what they are so that the world sees us correcting our own. What we can't do is stick our head in the sand and hope Nick goes away, because we all know fungus grows great in the dark. And that's what he is. He's an absolute fungus. He's a pimple on the ass of the conservative movement, and the people who've pustled up around him are equally as gross as he is. However, we can't stop everything to deal with these folks. We need to continue to press to make sure that we get another Republican president, because remember, we got Trump this one term. That's it. This time next year, we'll be talking about Marco Rubio or J.D. Vance and how we get them across the finish line. We're on a very short time clock. The last thing we need is to be dealing with these yahoos, because Nick Fuentes is not going to change. Candace is not going to change. Tucker's not going to change. Those three people have something in common. You know what it is? Millions of viewers, lots of clicks, and the money that comes with it. Make no mistake, they have grown like a fungus. We'll deal with them, call them out, keep our foot on the gas. I agree with you and Matt Walsh to that degree.
Yeah. I want to get your thoughts on this, Shelley, because my issue here is how are we becoming what the left has become? And I'm saying that because, when we look at people like Zoran Mondani, who 10 years ago, the Democrats would have not given him the time of day. He would have never been able to become mayor of New York City. But now, fast forward 10 years, and we have someone like him who is probably going to win the election because the Democrat Party did not say we're not socialists. We don't agree with him. We don't agree with his ideology. It's wrong. We don't agree with his stance on Israel, and that's not that's not part of a Democrat Party. Now they have someone like him who is about to win the New York City mayoral race. Now take it to the right with us, where you have major figures within the Republican Party having softball interviews. Now, I'm not so much upset about the interview. I'm talking about softball interviews where he's not pushing back, not challenging him on anything. Candace Owens is doing the same thing. These are two huge people within the conservative, or I should say on the right, in the Republican Party, are not just engaging, but embracing people like this. Are we going to get someone like a Nick Fuentes to, can we see that he may win an election if we ignore him and continue to embrace him?
Okay, first of all, I don't think Nick Fuentes is going to win any elections, number one, certainly not from the right. But I want to make this point, KJ. You were talking about Zoran, or however you pronounce his name, and how popular he has become, right? And I'm going to say this name, and I know some of you are going to be shocked that I said this, but I'm trying to make a point. Many people on the right thought the same thing about Donald J. Trump when he was running. Oh, he's not conservative enough. He's not us. He's not pro-life. He's this and that. But the man has won, I'm saying 3 times, but he's won 2 times, and we voted for him. I voted for him on purpose, proudly. So I'm not saying that to downgrade President Trump. I'm saying that those ideas and thoughts were there way back in 2016, 15, when President Trump was first starting to run. But people were all
so are you equating President Trump's ideologies and what people said about him?
That's why I said I'm going to say I know some people. That's why I say I know some people are going to say I'm just making the point that the ideas. Now, number 2,
what point are you making about the ideas?
The point I'm making is that people thought, you were saying, are we going to start embracing, Zoran Mondami? He would not have been accepted years ago. That minor point, President Trump was accepted on the right. However, I'm not saying that we should accept Fuentes and Candace Owens. I'm saying that we need to rebut them. When we were talking about this earlier, I thought about cancellation. I didn't say I agreed with Fuentes or Tucker Carlson at all. I just said outside needs to rebut them. They can say they are Republican or conservative, whatever, but they need to be rebutted. Yes, they do. All 3 of them. And so I think that's the place that we need to do. I disagree with Matt in that I think we can do both. I think we can look forward and we can rebut them. We don't have to just do one or the other, okay? Because whether or not we ignore Tucker or Nick or Candace, they're not going away. And even if they were part of the party, so to speak, the Republican Party, the ideas are still there. The ideas that Nick Fuentes is espousing, they've been there long before Nick was born. So it's nothing new that he's espousing. We just need to keep rebutting them, debating, if you will, pushing back, calling out the facts. We can't just say, let's ignore them. They have a whole, what's the man named Kevin Roberts from Heritage Foundation, who's getting a lot of flack now, right? He was right in that interview with Dana last year. They have a whole following that we cannot ignore. And these followers, they are voting. For whatever reason, they are voting. They're following Tucker. They're following Nick. If we are going to make inroads in that, we can't just say, if we get rid of Nick and Tucker, that's going to be the end of it. No, we still have to contend with the ideas that they're putting out.
Before Nick and Tucker, we had David Duke, a sitting Klansman running for statewide office in Louisiana. So this is not new,
But it's different because David Duke was always one that was shunned. He wasn't platformed. I never really. Go ahead.
David Duke, I think he got like 38, almost 40% of the vote. Play with him.
Yeah,
David
he was not
Duke
always
Louisiana.
shunned.
So
was not shunned.
Because I never saw him on major platforms. I never saw him being interviewed by major media personalities. Please correct me if I'm wrong there.
So David Duke is from Louisiana. So Louisiana politics are nothing like the politics we have in DC. Not anything like the politics we have in DC. But that was very much a major story. Here is someone who is, not ashamed, very proudly a Klansman, very proudly a leader in the Klan, who is running for statewide office, who showed up at the HBCUs to talk about what he was going to do for the Black folk who went to school there, who lived there, who worked there. He was legitimately a candidate. He felt like his social concerns with the Klan had nothing to do with his politics. And he was very warmly received by a certain segment of the Republican Party and some, what we used to have back then, blue dog Democrats, right? I think John Fetterman is the last of the blue dog Democrats. He may be the last one living. But with all of that said, this is not new. What Nick Fuentes is saying and doing is not new. What Candace is saying and doing is not new. They're just regurgitating the same old tropes in a new format. What we have to do is what and I stand with Dr. Roberts, what Dr. Roberts is saying. It's not enough to turn your ears off. What Heritage does is it robustly debates ideas. And the only way that you can debate and take apart someone else's argument is by listening. As repugnant as you find them. And he said, absolutely, he found what Nick Fuentes said is abhorrent. You know, he didn't agree with any of it. However, how do you take apart his argument if you're not listening?
Well,
how do you
wasn't
show his
taken
followers?
apart, though. I think the issue with this, with the people who are pushing back on this, is the fact that his argument was not taken apart.
Exactly, it wasn't.
He was brought on Tucker Carlson's show, and it was almost like a Thanksgiving turkey. I mean, he was buttered up and put on a beautiful plate and said, "Here, America, this is it." I mean, and so I think this is why people were still also upset with Kevin Roberts. Is that his name?
Yep, Dr. Roberts.
Because instead of him, at least mentioning, that this interview was not an interview that was, the way I would like to have presented this. He said he doesn't agree with Nick Fuentes, but he called people who were pushing back against it, was it venomous or whatever. And he said nothing about the softball interview that Tucker Carlson did.
I agree with you there, KJ. His statement, again, I support Kevin Roberts. I support the Heritage Foundation. I support his principle of what he said in those comments. I do think he could have been a little bit more, clear, specific, I guess. I don't know. I think he didn't say enough, or at least not enough substance to that statement. Again, that's granted. In no way, but he did say he abhors Nick's comments. And I agree with you too. Again, Tucker was soft in that interview.
Absolutely.
I mean, he was soft in the interview. And this is what I mean about us being able to, rebut. And I want to clarify something. I want to make it a little bit clearer about this. You asked me about when I said Trump and you were talking about Zoran. The point I was trying to make was that people change their views over time. That's the whole point I was trying to make, for good or bad. In Zoran's case, bad, I think. In Trump's case, absolutely good. I support that. So that's the point I was trying to make. It didn't come across clearly at first. But again, we can't be so, outside, we can't be so, that's offensive, that's this and that. Okay, fine. Maybe it is, but rebut it. We can't just call for, he's out of the party, or maybe he's not a party. I'm not saying they are. Maybe they shouldn't be a part of the party, or maybe they are or not. But one thing the conservative side needs to do, I've said this several times, and at the beginning of the year, plug for myself, shameless plug, I said there was going to be splinters in the MAGA movement, or this. I said that when we first started talking about the Epstein files, I think it was. But one thing that we need to do, we need to really define what is a conservative. And we will find out, like Nicole just said, we're not all going to agree on every issue 100%. So therefore, if I don't agree with you on issue X 100%, I'm not a conservative. And who gets to decide that I'm not a conservative? Right. You or me? No, because if you agree on 80% of the 80 of the 100, I'll take that. So again, we need to have these conversations.
As you mentioned, again, I say, when you all are talking about whether someone is, I wouldn't say conservative, I would say Republican, because I believe there are very finite definitions of what a conservative is. I mean, you can look at certain ideology, that type of stuff where someone's conservative. Now, there are people who are libertarian. There are some people who are, leftists, so I believe there's a spectrum there. But so when we're talking about this, we're talking about the Republican movement, I would say, or those on the right. I do think that there are some people within the Republican movement, we've talked about this before, that are not conservative, and that's okay.
Absolutely
and
not.
Right. And I don't think anyone was, or at least most people that I've talked to online and so on, were pushing back at Tucker Carlson interviewing Nick Fuentes, because Nick Fuentes has been interviewed by a bunch of people. But again, it was the way the interview went. And then when you pull that into the other interviews that Tucker Carlson has done of late, you know, and I want to push back against a little bit of what you all said about the idea of this is something that's not new. We've seen, the data shows that anti-Semitism is on the rise. I mean, it's really high right now. And I think because of the advent of social media, when people do platform these people and these softball issue interviews, it does create sort of like a swell. I mean, it causes a lot of people to say, "Oh, I like this guy," you know, and so I think that's an issue. But you know, like we said, people are waiting to see if Heritage will put out another statement, and I don't know if that's going to happen or not. We'll wait and see on that. But again, you know, we talk about people platforming and you know, not really pushing back against people like Nick Fuentes, and what's causing it are now they're coming after Erika Kirk. So she did an interview recently on Fox News, her first interview since the passing of Charlie Kirk. This is clip 2. Take a look.
Told your children that Charlie was going on a work trip with Jesus. Are they still asking, where's Daddy?
Yes, my daughter continues to ask, but it's really sweet because I keep explaining to her a few things. And I said, if ever you want to talk to Daddy, you just look up to the sky and start talking to him. He can hear you. He's always in your heart. And I told her, I said, you know, Daddy is in heaven. She goes, you think I could go sometime? I said, baby, we will all go one day. We will all go one day.
So, I mean, she has been getting it going through the ringer. I mean, people are commenting on the hug she gave Vice President Vance. They're saying that she doesn't appear to be mourning, that, you know, she's doing these interviews and, you know, well, I'll say public appearances, and they're saying that she doesn't look like a grieving widow. I mean, the list goes on. Nicole, what are your thoughts on this?
I would want to ask, what does a grieving widow look like? What does a grieving widow look like? Because, you know, all the people who have this to say, one, clearly have never lost a spouse. But when she closes the doors at night and she's in her bedroom by herself, there is no mistaking the grief of that widow. Just the mention of his name makes her cry. Now, she is very much a modern woman. Her husband left her a multi-million dollar business that depends on leadership. And she is that leader. So she's working. I think people think she should be dressed in black somewhere with the mirrors covered, with a torn shirt, you know, pulling her hair out and looking like, you know, yesterday's leftovers. She's got very small children to raise. She's got a company to run. And grief comes in waves. Sometimes you have a regular day. And yes, you laugh. And yes, you have happy times with your friends. And then there are some days where you can barely get yourself out of bed. And that doesn't change overnight. It sometimes makes you behave in a way that other people will see inappropriate. But what it feels like, or at least what I felt like when it happened to me, is like you're not connected to the world anymore. Like you're just kind of floating through your life. And yes, sometimes you run into fun things, and sometimes there are days that are so dark and so dank, but you just don't feel connected. So you latch on to anything that's going to keep you grounded, that's going to keep your mind busy, that's going to keep the memories at bay. Let me tell you, folks, grief is no joke. It changes everything about you. It changes the way you look at the world, your place in the world, everything about you. So do not take a smile during an interview as Erika Kirk not having loved her husband. not grieving. Give her space. You don't know what this woman is suffering through. You have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Shelley, what are your thoughts there?
Nicole, I'm going to sum up to these people what you just said. They need to shut the fuck up. Okay, they really do. This is the bad side of social media, because people think, oh, they see something on social media, they think they know somebody, right? They think they can read all the vibes, and because somebody looks a certain way, that this must not be. This is the bad part of social. And then, like you said, KJ, you know, it goes around the world, right? In minutes, in seconds, if you will. There is no ABC recipe for grieving. Now, there's a process, or there are parts to the grieving process. And guess what? It's not just one step and you're done. They go back and forth, up and down, skipping around all over for however long it takes. This is so this is angering. And again, these people, I hope Erika is not even paying attention to all this. I'm sure she's probably seen some of it, but I hope she's not, because it's just going to give her that much more pain, you know, that much more, if you will. And, you know, you can't get more pain than your spouse being assassinated in front of the world, you know, your children, 3-year-old asking, you know, can I go to heaven to see him? I mean, that's heartbreaking.
And that's every day. That's every day.
Every day. And these people will say, we got people in our chat. Yes, I love you. You support us or whatever. But you're so off on this. And I mean off in a warped kind of way. I love your support, but this is just think about what you're saying. Oh, she carries teardrops, the fake tears, or she's not really crying. I mean, are you serious?
I'll tell you. To me, though, you know, watching her made me think of my aunt. So I have an aunt, and this aunt, she's one of these, you know, Bible believing, Holy Spirit filled aunts. She's been like this since I was a young girl. She's been this way, and she had a son, my cousin, one of my favorite cousins in the whole world. And I know he wasn't 50, so he was like late 40s, and he died suddenly. And this was maybe 2 years ago. And the way she handled the funeral, I have never, not just the death, I have never seen anything like that before in my life. I mean, that was her only son. He died young. He died suddenly. I mean, he was the light of her world. And she was just, all she kept saying was, God, he was a Bible believer. He was saved. You know, I know the Bible. I know he's with the Lord. And she was like helping people through it. Everybody else was, distraught and tore up. And she was so strong. But this is something that people of faith do. This is something that some people can do. I'm not saying this is for everyone, but there are some people who, when you go through things like this, their faith really pulls them through. I mean, they are connected. They have a connection with God and his word in a way that really just brings them through. She even spoke at the funeral. She got up there and she spoke, and I'm like crying because, I mean, my cousin, he was one of these ones where just lights up the room. Like when you miss him when he's gone. He was one of these types of people. And to this day, I just don't understand how she did that. She's still like that. And I'm sure she cried and everything, but she just it just was like, this is life, and this is what this is what I've been dealt, and I gotta move on. So I say that to say, you don't know how people everyone reacts differently to life, especially hard things like this. And if that is what's going on with Erika, because I know she's a woman of faith and she's pulling through just by God's grace, then God bless her. God bless her for it. Why are people critiquing every move?
Social media.
You guys are miserable.
social
because
media.
she seems very theatrical, right? She seems very
she's a girly girl. I could tell
over the top,
right?
For some people's tastes, and so for some people, the way that she presents herself seems disingenuous to start off with. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But she's a different type of person. But again, people grieve differently, and I want to believe the best about widows, especially young widows, because you can't conceive the pain. It is inconceivable, the pain, the amount of loss. I still get choked up talking about my husband now.
Right.
I mean, it brings me to tears sometimes when I smell his cologne in the room, or when my daughter laughs and she sounds like him. It just snaps you right back to that moment. So grief takes a long time, and you never really forget. You just kind of live around it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And I think again, another social media effect, we always looking for something, what they call it, clickbait, right? Something theatrical, something that's going to give us the click. And I think sometimes we can be so engrossed in social media that we really miss people right in front of us in real life. So we don't have that grounded connection because we want to see everything on the screen. I know we're on social media tonight, but we want to see everything is on the screen and oh my gosh, somebody should be doing this and whatever. But when we actually have someone grieving or that's right there in real life, we don't even know how to make that connection.
Right. And as you said, she's one of these girls. She's a girly girl. She was in pageants. She likes the makeup. She likes the hair, the eyelashes and stuff. So she's one of these ones that, she's crying. I mean, get a life, folks. Get a life. Speaking of girly girls, there's one that's not. This is our last topic of the night.
What a segue.
Yeah. Gotta talk about what happened to this woman at Gold's Gym. This was a Gold's Gym, I believe, in California. And a woman was asked to leave when she got upset about a trans woman. So a man pretending to be a woman walked into the dressing room while she was naked. This is clip 3. Take a look.
And always saying,
How are you? Did you tell me or not that women like to see dick?
I'm asking you a fucking question.
Exactly. Get out of the way now. No. Now he knows how to be a man, right? Now he knows how to be a man. Stay out of the women's locker room. We don't want it. He needs to have his gym membership revoked for that shit. And the woman told you. He assaulted me. The girl told already. We already filed reports. No. That's fine. I want the video. You can't get rid of me for this. I'm a woman and I have every right to not want a man in the restroom when I'm naked. There are girls naked in there. Look at them walking in there like it's okay. It's not okay. I understand. I just had the worst experience ever at the gym, at Gold's Gym, and I think this is probably happening at gyms across America. We're like, trans women are going into the women's locker room and not really caring about how women feel about it. And it's really hurtful, yo. Like, how you gonna say you want to be a woman or that you are a woman, but you don't give a fuck how women feel? Today I was naked in the locker room. I turn around and there's a man there in boy clothes, lip gloss, standing there looking at me. I'm butt naked. So the first thing I think is maybe there's a worker in here. Maybe I missed the sign. I say the word sir to say, sir, what are you doing in here? He goes, don't fucking talk to me. I'm a woman. I have a right to be in here. Immediately, I'm fucking pissed because I'm butt naked. I feel violated. I feel like weird. Like, I don't want to deal with this, right? So the girls are walking in and they're seeing the commotion and they actually chime in and say, yo, I don't know why he's in here. He's not supposed to be in here. And then I talk to the people that work at Gold's Gym and they don't really have anything to do. They just like, oh, we can file a report about it, incident report. What the fuck is going on? Like, listen, how can you say you're a woman or you want to be a woman and you don't care how women feel?
This should not be happening. Shelly, what are your thoughts on this?
My thoughts are, when is she going to get rid of her membership? Okay. I don't even blame that dick pretending to be a chick. I blame Gold's Gym and all the people who have memberships there, because I bet you she has not removed her membership. I bet you she hasn't rescinded it. I bet you she will be at Gold's Gym tomorrow or the next day. I don't blame.
She's probably under contract. You can't just cut
You can break it. Break it, and then you can do claims or whatever, file a report, all that stuff, whatever. I'm just saying that's all I'm saying. That dick pretending to be a chick, Gold's Gym allowed it, and I said before, again, I know President Trump is in the office, but I said before, all this train stuff is not going away. It kind of took a little quiet backseat for a while, but it's not going away. Over last week we just had the Glamour magazine had 9 men or 9 or 8 or 9 men on the cover as women of the year. As Glamour magazine sales have not dropped. I mean, I'm just saying. So again, my membership at Gold's would be it. Cut the credit card, file a claim with your credit, whatever. That would be it. But I mean, I appreciate her anger, her distress. I can appreciate that. But let's follow it up with the next step.
Yeah, Nicole, thoughts on this?
Listen, this is the remnants of Democrat domination for years. When we were so busy doing other things, they were indoctrinating the American public. The alphabet mafia is real. Shelley's right. They're not going anywhere. They are not going anywhere. They refuse to go anywhere. But I'm going to tell you, being a woman in a gym, you're tired after you've worked out. You're sweaty. You just want to take a shower, pull a ponytail, and get the hell out of there. But she's naked and she turns around and there's a man with lip gloss on staring at her. Now, I get, it's California, states' rights and whatnot, but there is something inherently wrong with men and women's private spaces, period. And anyone that cannot agree to that is being disingenuous. And I don't give a damn how nice your hair is and the quality of your lip gloss. Putting lipstick on a man does not make him a woman under any circumstances. Imagine a teenage girl naked when this man walks in there. This is when we talk about how they've attempted to manipulate our culture into something perverse. This is that. Now, I wouldn't quit. I'm going to tell you now, I wouldn't terminate my contract. They would have to fire me, but they would have had to call several policing agencies to get me up out of that thing too. Because first of all, me and him would have thrown some hands, naked or not. It would have been a whole problem in there, a whole damn problem. And I would have expected the other women in the locker room to help me whoop his ass in the hallway, because men don't belong in women's spaces. They have a gender neutral situation. Why the hell are you here? These gyms have gender neutral restrooms and all this other stuff. Take your confused ass over there to the no person situation. Don't come over here. I would not quit my gym. I would not. I would file a lawsuit. I would sue every damn body over there. Anybody who was working would be a part of my lawsuit. They're not going to violate my rights, and I'm not going to run and hide. That's not how we defeat them. We have to look these enemies in the face and kick them in the nuts. That's what should have happened in that situation. She should have kicked his balls up into his lip gloss mouth. That's what should have happened. It makes me angry that women can't even be women privately. You are not a woman. I don't care how cute your dress is. You are still a man. I'm not going to buy into your delusion, and you can't force me. And Gold's Gym ought to shut those doors. They really should, because they would be renting their underwear from me. When I tell you I'd slap them with a lawsuit, it would be a tremendous lawsuit. They would learn that lesson.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine. And the thing I'm happy. I'm wondering, like it would have bothered me for him to see me naked, but then it would have bothered me if I had to see him naked. It's just like, what is going on? And the audacity of these people. I mean, I think they get off with all the attention.
Of course they do. It's attention-seeking behavior. Absolutely.
Yeah, you call them out. What are you doing here? They want you to call them a man, so they can say, "Oh, why'd you call me a man?" This is what they're waiting for.
You remember back in the day when transvestites,
thirst traps. Yeah.
Transvestites back in the day, the one thing they wanted to do was blend in. That was the best thing that could happen to them, that they wouldn't look weird, that they wouldn't be called out. But what we have here are people who want the attention of being called out. I mean, this guy was reveling in his glory because she was so angry. Like, how dare you be angry? I belong in these spaces. You don't belong in these spaces. And until women stop cowering and fight these people back, they will continue to come for us.
Now, I don't know if I would encourage that, because let me tell you,
knuckle up. The hell with that.
I think a trans woman that is a man pretending to be a woman is much more lethal than a man, because they have the strength of men, but they will fight you like a woman and they want to hurt you. They don't care. I mean, generally a man, like, most men, if you are a woman and you get out of hand and you start trying to fight a man, they'll hold back. They don't want to hurt you. But these trans women, they want to hurt you, and they have the strength of men.
I want to hurt them too, but I'm going to bear spray, a kick in the nuts levels the playing field. We would be throwing them. You hear me? There is no way I'm going to cede 1 inch to some perv who wants to be in the ladies' locker room. Not 1 inch. We have got to stop walking backwards before we actually become birthing people and chest feeders, whatever the hell that means. I'm so sick of these people. I am sick to death of these folks, and I will not bow to their culture. I will not.
All right. Well, folks in the chat, sound off and let us know what you think on this story. Would you cancel your membership, or would you stay and sue? Let us know in the chat. Also, let me see. I think I got all this. I want to acknowledge some super chats here. Dallas says, Jessica says, capable, lazy. Oh, we got that already, I believe. Okay. Dallas says, lipstick name should be Pop Off. All right.
Yes, I love that.
Thank you so much. All right. And we have here, Dallas again says, thoughts on Nicki Minaj thanking Trump on Nigeria. Oh, yeah, he did do that. I mean, she did do that. What are your thoughts there, Nicole?
Everybody's trying to be relevant. I'm going to just say that.
All right, folks. We will be back on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. right here on Pop and Politics. Tomorrow, you can catch the All-American Talk Show right here on the Metro Conservative Media Network. They are here at All-American Talk. You can find them at 7 p.m. They are here on YouTube. So they're going to be going to give you the early returns for the elections tomorrow. Yes, they'll give you the early returns. They're going to be on at 7, so you can watch them as the returns come in. And then we will be back on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. to go over all the madness from tomorrow night. So we're going to be talking about whether or not Virginia, talking about that election, did Winsome Sears pull it through, New Jersey, New York City, and so much more. So definitely come back on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. for us to go over it all. All right. So that does it for us tonight. Again, if you haven't done so, hit that like button and subscribe. Our goal is to hit 250,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We can only do it with your help. All right. So that does it. Have a great night, and God bless.